Hey friends, we're gonna try to keep this one short. YouTube had some issues with me uploading a longer video earlier, so we're gonna keep this one short and just kind of show how Pokemon selection in general will work, as well as team building and Pokemon Showdown, and then we'll split some other stuff up into videos later. Um, so this is our Unhinged Draft League board. If you haven't looked at it already, you will need to look at it for the draft coming up on Friday. It's kind of essential that you have draft outline idea. If not, we'll bug you all Friday, and then you might miss out on some pretty cool picks that you're wanting to use. So yeah. So from here, you can see I've added all the Pokemon types. This is kind of for your benefit if you're new to Pokemon, just because what you have to know about Pokemon is that Pokemon is kind of a giant game of rock, paper, scissors. Instead of 3 options being rock, paper, scissors, there are 18 types. So there are 18 options. And this type chart here, down on the column is the attacking type, and then side on the column is the defending type. And so as you can see, like fire here will hit normal types for normal damage, fire types for half damage, water types for half, and then anything that's white here is normal damage. Grass and ice are ×2 damage, same with bug and steel, half damage on rock and dragon. So you you look through these and see the attacking types here and the defending types here, and then you can see here, like Incineroar is a fire type, and so like it might not do so well against Salamence, which is that dragon type, or Dondozo, who's a water type. But there's other options for Incineroar. That's why he's ranked so high. But we can talk about that later. So that's kind of something that you'll look at as you're moving forward. Most Pokemon have 2 types. So Ursaluna, like who's a normal and ground type, will have the defensive type matchup of both normal and ground types. And then Pokemon that have compounding weaknesses, like for example fire types, like if you take Rock here, it is super effective against fire. Rock is also super effective against the flying type here. If there is a fire flying type like Charizard, let's see, Charizard's like, what, 14 points? Yeah, 13 points. So if there's a fire flying type like Charizard, he will take ×4 damage for Mach type moves. So that's kind of what you want to look at as you're balancing your team. As a general rule of thumb, Steel tends to be the best defensive typing. Fairy is a pretty solid offensive typing, and Fire is like a good all-rounder typing. A lot of teams will utilize a fire, water, grass core, so they have both a fire type, a grass type, and a water type, because those 3 types have pretty good basics, and then you can build other things around your weaknesses and holes in your team so you can hit everything for big damage. So let's talk a little bit about Pokemon drafting selection and how Pokemon Showdown team building works. So we'll go here. As you can see on Pokemon Showdown, I have already downloaded a couple teams from Reddit so that I can do a mock battle later. We're going to backtrack just a bit. So if you Google Showdown here, we have a damage calculator up over here. Let's banish him to the Shadow Realm. And then, so Pokemon Showdown, if this page doesn't pull up for you immediately, there's like a bar at the top with on the far right option that says play. It'll bring you here. Let's select Team Builder, and then New Team, and then the format for the Draft League is Regulation H. So we'll go ahead and add a Pokemon. Now let's look at the Draft League here, and let's look at like what Pokemon like jumps out at you. Like if you like Goldengo, we'll look at Goldengo. Ursaluna is a Pokemon that like I'm semi-interested in, so let's check out Ursaluna. A place that I like to go is Pikalytics. Pikalytics has a lot of stats, usages, and all that good stuff for VGC. Up here in the bar you can select Regulation H 2024, and you can see like the usages stats. Like you can see that Annihilate was really used, Goldengo was the most used, Dragonite's really strong, Incineroar's really strong, hence these Pokemon having such high price tags. So let's go ahead, and we liked Ursaluna, so Ursaluna's already pulled up here. You can see who he's got as team. No, I don't want to try Gemini. You can see who he usually has as teammates to kind of like support and like support or kind of help with offense, and then you can like look at each of these Pokemon and see why. So like you can see the moves here that Ursaluna has, like Facade, Headlong Rush, Protect, Earthquake. That's the usual moves that he has. The Flame Orb and the ability Guts. So let's go ahead and go here to Ursaluna. This website's called Cerebi. It has a lot of information about Pokemon. has their stats. That's actually Blood Moon stats. That's normal Ursaluna stats, because Ursaluna has two forms. They're both listed separately on the draft. But as you can see here, Guts increases attack by 50% when induced with a status, so either Burn, Paralyze, Sleep, Poison, or Freeze. The attack lowering effect of Burn is not applied. Burn usually has an attack lowering effect, but not with the ability Guts, which Ursaluna likes to run, along with the item called Flame Orb, which will burn itself. And so you can also look at the EV spreads here. We'll talk about that later. But let's look at the teammates, and so see why they're kind of like teammates. So Incineroar, let's take a look at him here. Incineroar is one of the best Pokemon ever created. He usually runs the move Fake Out, which always moves first and flinches unless somebody protects, which means that that Pokemon doesn't get to move that turn. The move Knock Off, which will remove a Pokemon's item. Parting Shot, which switches the Pokemon out and gives it stat drop, and then sometimes he'll run stuff like Flarelets, Protect, or U-Turn, which are kind of like interchangeable. Actually, I'm surprised that Protect has such high use. Oh, 7%, that's why. So this is like usually the standard set. You can see the insanely high usage stats on that. But like if you don't want to spend 40 points, because Incineroar's 19 points, Ursaluna's 20 points, you can see what makes Incineroar good. Well, Fake Out. So we can go here to Pokemon Showdown, and so let's go ahead and get Ursaluna on the team. Let's add another Pokemon up here, and then let's sort by the move Fake Out. So these are all the Pokemon that learn the move Fake Out. It's like, maybe that's not quite what I'm going for. If you wanted to add more move filters, like you can, like Parting Shot. And so you can see like Grimmsnarl learns both Fake Out and Parting Shot, or Peko does, Alolan Persia. And then any of Incineroar's pre-evolutions do like Litten and Torracat, and then Grimmsnarl's pre-evolutions like Morgrem, Impidimp, and then Persian's pre-evolution is obviously Meowth. So you could do that, or you could go look back in Incineroar. 99% usage of the ability Intimidate. Now what Intimidate does, if we... let's see, let's go to this one here. Kirby! Incineroar. We're going to go to Gen 9 always, because this is the current format that we're using. Some moves don't exist anymore, and some moves didn't exist back then, so it's nice to have updated information. So we can see Intimidate here. Upon entering battle or receiving the ability, the opponent lowers opponent's attacks one stage. In a double battle, both opponent's attack stats are lowered. And then there's a couple caveats with that. So that's like one of the strongest abilities in all of Showdown, because Ursaluna loves his attack stat a lot. As you saw with, let's go ahead and go back. As you saw here, this man's attack stat is just absolutely insane. 140 is kind of nuts. So kind of what we're looking at. Oh, you can also look at their stats here, and we'll go over that later. So there's maybe we want Intimidate. So let's go Fake Out and Intimidate. Those are the two filters. And now we've got a couple ones. We got Scrafty, we got Hitmontop. So we can go over here to the Draft League. We can search for Scrafty, and he's over here. So Scrafty's a lot cheaper. Scrafty's only 8 points as opposed to 19, and Hitmontop is 12 points. So still cheaper than Incineroar. So you can look for things like that. And that's pretty much what you can do for the entire thing. You can go through Ursaluna's partners and do that. Another thing that you can do, I would recommend looking at, is with Ursaluna. Let's look at his stats on here. His speed is really low, 50%. And so he prefers a mode of speed control called Trick Room, which reverses speed order. Speed basically determines what order your Pokemon move in. There are ways to modify it. The move Tailwind will double your speed on your side of the field, and the move Trick Room will reverse speed order for the entire field, so you and your opponent. So Trick Room, we can filter by the move Trick Room, and then we can see some Pokemon that learn that. Ursaluna, some of his partners learn that as well. Sinistcha learns Trick Room. Pelipper knows the move Tailwind, which is nice. And then Gholdengo, Dragonite, and Archaludon are attackers, so is an Annihilate. Torkoal is another great Trick Room attacker Pokemon. Indeedee is another great Trick Room setter. And Grimmsnarl is a Pokemon with Fake Out that we saw earlier, like with Incineroar. So you can kind of go through and see, what is it about these Pokemon? What stuff do they run? Like Grimmsnarl sets up screens, and he's like, okay, well maybe I want to set up screens. So let's keep Trick Room, and let's go let's see, the screens on Grimmsnarl were reflect and light screen. So let's go reflect and light screen. So a lot of Pokemon will learn screens and Trick Room, as you can see. So we've got Armarouge, which is... Oh, where's Armarouge in the Draft League? Is actually fairly pricey. He's pretty good. He's also a Trick Room attacker. So you can have people like Armarouge. He's cheaper than Grimmsnarl, though. Grimmsnarl 17 points here. So you can have like Armarouge or Bronzong. You can go Farigiraf, who's also pretty expensive, or you can go super cheap like Chimecho. Actually, is Chimecho even in the draft? Yes, he is. Okay. Chimecho is 1 point, looks like. So, like, if you really wanted screens and Trick Room, and you wanted budget, you could do that. There is a reason that most Pokemon are priced the way they are, though. Sometimes they're pretty big steals. Sometimes they, like Chimecho, I think is usable. However, you do have to consider the drawback. You saw Ursaluna's stat spread earlier. This is Chimecho's stat spread. He's not quite as impressive. He is still fairly bulky. He is slow, and he doesn't hit anywhere close to his heart. So. But that's also something that you have to consider with Pokemon, is that not all of them are going to play huge attacking roles, which is why some of the more expensive Pokemon are support Pokemon. Incineroar is considered a support Pokemon. He can hit hard, but usually doesn't. Same with a Whimsicott, Porygon 2, Amoonguss, like all these guys are support. And so when you're looking to have support, basically you're like, what makes Incineroar so good? Why is Incineroar good? You can go here to Pikalytics, look at Incineroar, look what he runs, go to Showdown, go those filters. Same with Amoonguss. We can look at Amoonguss and ask what Amoonguss makes Amoonguss so good. Spore, Rage Powder, Pollen Puff. So let's go. So let's look at the move Spore, which is usually the thing that it does. So like Breloom and Toadscroll can learn it. They have a weird ability that we can talk about later, but like we can like Rage Powder. Like Amoonguss can learn it. Amoonguss's pre-evolution can learn it, who's also much, much, much cheaper than Amoonguss. Let's look at Fungus. Yeah, Fungus is only 3 points. So, like, there's like roles that can be filled by pre-evolutions, alternate Pokemon like Jumpluff or any of Jumpluff's pre-evolutions. There was a funny calculation that was run where, so the way that Rage Powder works is that it focuses your opponent's Pokemon onto that slot. So basically, like, if I have Ursaluna and Amoonguss next to each other, I can use Rage Powder, and anything that's not a grass type would be forced to target Amoonguss instead of my Ursaluna and keep it safe. There's another move like that called Follow Me, that works on all Pokemon regardless. It's on, like, Electabuzz gets it, and Electabuzz's final evolution, Electivire, there was a funny calculation done where it's like, oh, you could run the Electivire or like Venonat, which is this little guy with an ability an item called Eviolite, which increases its defenses by 50%. Actually takes hits better than Electivire can, which so like there's some fun little niche things that you can find here in the Draft League. So yeah, that's kind of like the basic scatterbrain thoughts that I had about kind of like how to pick your Pokemon, and then kind of like how to choose your partners, choose a focal point, and like maybe find some cheaper picks for a role that you're looking to fulfill. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks, y'all.